Welcome to Zero Trust Cyber Tips and Tricks. In today's video we will be talking about Mitre ATT&CK tactics and techniques. If you're in the cybersecurity field, you may have heard of this framework, but what exactly is it and how can it be used to improve your organization's security? In this video series, we'll give you an overview of what Mitre ATT&CK is and take a closer look at the tactics and techniques used by attackers. Introduction to Mitre ATTACK. Mitre ATT&CK is a globally accessible knowledge base of adversary tactics and techniques based on real-world observations. The ATTACK knowledge base is used as a foundation for the development of specific threat models and methodologies in the private sector, in government, and in the cybersecurity product and service community. Mitre ATTACK, short for Adversarial Tactics, Techniques, and Common Knowledge, is a framework that provides a comprehensive understanding of the methods and tactics used by cyber attackers. The framework is organized into a matrix that includes different tactics on the vertical axis, such as initial access, execution, persistence, etc. Part 8. Understanding Credential Access. The adversary is trying to steal account names and passwords. Credential access consists of techniques for stealing credentials like account names and passwords. Techniques used to get credentials include keylogging or credential dumping. Using legitimate credentials can give adversaries access to systems, make them harder to detect, and provide the opportunity to create more accounts to help achieve their goals. There are various techniques that can be used for privilege escalation, some of which includes adversary in the middle. Adversaries may attempt to position themselves between two or more network devices using an adversary in the middle (ITM) technique to support follow-on behaviors such as network sniffing or transmitted data manipulation. By abusing features of common networking protocols that can determine the flow of network traffic, e.g. ARP, DNS, LLMNR, etc., adversaries may force a device to communicate through an adversary-controlled system so they can collect information or perform additional actions. ARP cache poisoning. Adversaries may poison address resolution protocol (ARP) caches to position themselves between the communication of two or more network devices. This activity may be used to enable follow-on behaviors such as network sniffing or transmitted data manipulation. Brute force. Adversaries may use brute force techniques to gain access to accounts when passwords are unknown or when password hashes are obtained. Without knowledge of the password for an account or set of accounts, an adversary may systematically guess the password using a repetitive or iterative mechanism. Brute forcing passwords can take place via interaction with a service that will check the validity of those credentials or offline against previously acquired credential data, such as password hashes. Password guessing. Adversaries with no prior knowledge of legitimate credentials within the system or environment may guess passwords to attempt access to accounts. Without knowledge of the password for an account, an adversary may opt to systematically guess the password using a repetitive or iterative mechanism. An adversary may guess login credentials without prior knowledge of system or environment passwords during an operation by using a list of common passwords. Password guessing may or may not take into account the target's policies on password complexity or use policies that may lock accounts out after a number of failed attempts. Password cracking. Adversaries may use password cracking to attempt to recover usable credentials, such as plaintext passwords, when credential material such as password hashes are obtained. OS credential dumping can be used to obtain password hashes. This may only get an adversary so far when pass the hash is not an option. Further, adversaries may leverage data from configuration repository in order to obtain hashed credentials for network devices. Password spraying. Adversaries may use a single or small list of commonly used passwords against many different accounts to attempt to acquire valid account credentials. Password spraying uses one password, e.g., password 01, or a small list of commonly used passwords, that may match the complexity policy of the domain. Logins are attempted with that password against many different accounts on a network to avoid account lockouts that would normally occur when brute forcing a single account with many passwords. Credentials from password stores. Adversaries may search for common password storage locations to obtain user credentials. Passwords are stored in several places on a system, depending on the operating system or application holding the credentials. There are also specific applications that store passwords to make it easier for users manage and maintain. Once credentials are obtained, they can be used to perform lateral movement and access restricted information. Credentials from web browsers. Adversaries may acquire credentials from web browsers by reading files specific to the target browser. Web browsers commonly save credentials such as website usernames and passwords so that they do not need to be entered manually in the future. Web browsers typically store the credentials in an encrypted format within a credential store. However, methods exist to extract plaintext credentials from web browsers. Exploitation for credential access. Adversaries may exploit software vulnerabilities in an attempt to collect credentials. Exploitation of a software vulnerability occurs when an adversary takes advantage of a programming error in a program, service, or within the operating system software or kernel itself to execute adversary-controlled code. Credentialing and authentication mechanisms may be targeted for exploitation by adversaries as a means to gain access to useful credentials or circumvent the process to gain access to systems. One example of this is MS-14068, which targets Kerberos and can be used to forge Kerberos tickets using domain user permissions. Exploitation for credential access may also result in privilege escalation depending on the process targeted or credentials obtained. Forge web credentials. Adversaries may forge credential materials that can be used to gain access to web applications or Internet services. Web applications and services, hosted in cloud SaaS environments or on-premise servers, often use session cookies, tokens, or other materials to authenticate and authorize user access. Keylogging. Adversaries may log user keystrokes to intercept credentials as the user types them. Keylogging is likely to be used to acquire credentials for new access opportunities when OS credential dumping efforts are not effective, and may require an adversary to intercept keystrokes on a system for a substantial period of time before credentials can be successfully captured. Mitigating credential access attacks involves implementing a combination of technical and administrative controls. This includes 1. Implementing strong authentication and access controls. This includes the use of multi-factor authentication and least privilege access. 2. Regularly reviewing and managing user accounts. This includes disabling or removing accounts of employees who have left the organization. 3. Implementing security controls such as firewalls and intrusion detection and prevention systems. These can help to monitor and block unauthorized access attempts. 4. Regularly monitoring and analyzing network traffic. This can help to detect suspicious activity that could indicate an attempted credential access. 5. Implementing security awareness and training program for employees. This can help to educate employees about the importance of security and the risks of phishing and social engineering attacks. 6. Having an incident response plan in place and regularly testing it. This can help ensure readiness in case of any attack. 7. Implementing security configurations management. This can help to enforce security policies across the network, and detect any unauthorized changes. 8. Implementing security information and event management, SIEM. This can help to monitor, analyze, and respond to security-related data and detect any suspicious activity. 9. Regularly reviewing and monitoring system logs, including those of endpoint security software. This can help to detect any credential access techniques used by attackers. 10. Implementing network segmentation and isolation to limit the spread of an attack. 11. Educating users and employees on best practices for creating and managing strong passwords and not reusing them. 12. Implementing password management solutions. 13. Regularly monitoring and reviewing access logs to detect any suspicious activity. Mitre ATT&CK framework provides a comprehensive understanding of the techniques and methods used by attackers to credential access and can help organizations to identify potential vulnerabilities and implement countermeasures to prevent credential access. For more information about credential access, go to Mitre website, at https://attack.mitre.org. In the next video we will be talking about Mitre ATTACK, discovery. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more cybersecurity tips and tricks.